Thanks for dropping into GB Podcasting.
I'm Koty.
And I'm Steve.
Heyo.
3, 2, 1. We are live.
It's about to get genuine.
Oh, it's going to get real genuine.
Yeah, I'm kind of heated today.
It's all good, though. You know, as long as it's motivated in the right direction, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So let them hear about it.
All right. So talking today on awareness, and this has come from some frustration from earlier on in my day. The last 2 days in a row on the way to the gym at the exact same intersection, there was the potential for an accident, and it has irritated the shit out of me since it happened earlier today. So yesterday we were on our way to the gym and Brandon was driving, and there's an intersection that has 3 lanes, 2 turn lanes and 1 to go straight, and right as we were coming up to get in the turning lane, someone merged. No turn signal, no speed change. They just decided they could just merge right into our lane.
I'm turning left.
Like, whatever, like, it was an older gentleman, and we got over into the other lane. Luckily, there was no one there. Got over out of the lane we needed to be in to avoid this, and went around them and turned into the gym. Well, today I was on my way to the gym, and in the exact same spot, an elderly woman this time was in front of me, and she just merged. Like, didn't even try to make the curve to stay in her lane. She just cut the corner in the curve and came over on me. And I was like, if I wasn't paying attention, I would have just hit you.
Mm-hmm.
And then what if I hurt you? I would feel terrible to have hurt an old woman, even though it wasn't my fault. Like, you wouldn't be at fault in that accident, and yet it's still an issue for you to deal with.
Right, yeah.
And it just irritates me that I feel like the awareness of drivers is exponentially going down, like, quickly.
Right. And when you initially tell that story of both of those instances, 2 commonalities there that jump out to me. One, terrible traffic pattern, which it is for anybody who has not driven through it or know what we're talking about. Second, both drivers in the wrong or problematic at the time have been older individuals. And yes, older individuals, in my opinion, face more of a scrutiny for being a problem on the roads.
And, it's not like I'm trying to hammer old people by any means. But at the same time, like, what is it about after retirement that I stop using good driving habits and just decide to turn signals don't matter, my brake doesn't matter, I just can just move around the road wherever I feel like I need to be, and everyone will get out of my way.
Yeah.
And, that's not just an old person problem. Like, that's an everyone problem. People have decided that if their car needs to be somewhere on the road, that it can go there without looking in a mirror, without putting on a turn signal and letting someone go past them and getting in behind them. They don't care.
No.
That's where I'm supposed to. It's an entitlement problem.
I see your foreshadowing right there.
Epic foreshadowing for later on in the show. But, and to go away from the older people part of that conversation, I was on my way home from the gym, and I was coming down, like, the road to my house, and I was coming down a hill, and this person came over into my lane. Like, crossed the yellow line, so I got over onto the shoulder, but there was nowhere left for me to go, so I started on my horn to try to catch this person's attention before they ran into me, and right as they got to where, like, I could see their face, this dude's face just pops up from, like, looking under his steering wheel and just catches me and, like, swerves really hard, and I was like...
And he wasn't looking to see if one foot was bigger than the other. I promise you that.
No. So I would guarantee that this man's looking at a phone, but, like, why? Like, I am not the best driver you've ever seen to where, like, I don't look at my phone when I'm driving. We all do it.
Yeah.
If you say you don't do it, you're lying to yourself.
More than likely. I mean, I know people that don't, but...
But a lot of us, like, whether it's changing music or using your phone while you're driving, a lot of us do it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I cannot tell you the last time that I had to correct myself before hitting a car for being over the yellow line.
Right.
Like...
To that extent of it.
Yeah, it's like I'm not saying I don't move, like, in the road when I'm looking at my phone. I probably do, but it's like a constant to check to see that I'm on the right path. And, like, this dude was like for probably a 30-second period looking down and not at the road to stay in my lane long enough to that I had to hit the horn for him to realize he was in the wrong lane.
Yeah.
It's like, man, like, what are we doing? I'm sorry, like, what are we doing? And I know that this sounds like I run into a lot of bad scenarios with drivers, and if you run into an asshole in the morning, you ran into an asshole, but if you run into assholes all day, you're the asshole. I promise I'm not a bad driver that is causing bad situations to happen to me. Brandon was driving yesterday with that one, and today I just ran into a string of fucking terrible drivers.
Hence why we talk about it now.
Yes.
But I agree, and it happens a lot. My thing that I attribute that to is the fact that, I mean, just in that instance, you talking about two different scenarios where we were in the same location. Think about it. Very often we drive the same paths day in and day out because we're headed to the same places, or hell, most of the time we're going to the same places at the same times. You know, it's clockwork. It's day in, day out routine.
Habitual creatures.
Right. And I think the more you get into that routine, the more absent-minded you become, and how much less awareness you have because you've done this 1,000 times. You expect epic foreshadowing.
I know, these expectations.
You expect the trip to go exactly like it did the day before if it went off with no hitches, you know? Or think about yesterday when we took that trip to the gym, Four Seasons, there was a wreck in front of me. And traffic got backed up or whatever it was. It may not have been a wreck, but there was an incident on the road stopping traffic. I thought about that today whenever I was heading through town. Shit, I hope there's not an accident. This is going to take me 30 minutes compared to 5. And you see where that plays?
Yeah, you know, you get so caught up in the same routine and the same things that any little hitch in that stands out significantly. But it makes you absent-minded to the fact that there are not anomalies, but like outstanding factors that can change that trip exponentially. At
every turn.
And me and you have talked about this before. We're so absent-minded to the fact that we're rolling around in a machine that uses explosive combustion to move, and we're like, this thing's gonna run fine and never blow up on me and kill me.
Just run like it's supposed to.
Just take
point
us
A
to
to
where we're
point B,
supposed to.
nothing.
And
That's sad. That's like, I don't mean to jump on that, but the fact that we are, I mean, think about it. Your car knows more about driving than you do. There's people out there that can't drive a stick shift, but this car knows when to switch gears on its own and gets me from point A to point B. And, you know, you talking about the expectations. Who's to say you're not going down the road one day at 80 miles an hour, which is not nowadays fast by any means. I feel like if you get on the interstate going slower than 80, there's a problem.
You're getting your doors blown off, and someone's flipping you off because they're mad that you're not going fast enough.
As a matter of fact, fun story, headed down the interstate the other day in one of our work trucks, and those things are old. They're worked out.
They're not doing 80 miles an hour very well.
You know, they've been put against the hardest standards that our industry could ever allow it to go through. But
and a little above at times.
Probably a lot of the time. But I'm going down the interstate at 65 miles an hour, okay?
That's pretty good.
Speed limit's 60, and mind you, the truck is loaded down, and I've got a chipper behind me. I'm going 65, running this thing hard.
Like a scalded dog.
To make sure that I'm not inconveniencing anybody around me. I could give two shits less if I'm going down the interstate at 45 after a long day of work. I know I'm headed home. I'm a happy guy. But
I'm loaded down. I just need to get there without crashing this truck that I can't stop very easily.
65 miles an hour, 5 miles an hour over the speed limit. The speed limit, mind you. Limit, the word, upper limit. And I get weird looks and all sorts of... I've had people flip me off.
Nasty
but specifically the other day, this woman looked at me like I was stupid for going 65 down the road. And I'm like, do you see what I'm driving? What I have behind me? And you're going to look at me like I'm a problem.
Oh, yeah. And it's because people think especially on 26, I don't know if it's something in the water around here. If you're on 26 and you're doing less than, I'll give people, if you're doing less than 75, people are pissed.
Yeah. But back to the original point of that, say you're doing 80 down the road, who's to say that 2 of your front tires, or better yet, 1, just decides to come off?
Patrick Miller.
Boop. Going down the road. And what do you do about it? It yanks you off the interstate. You turn, flip, tumble, roll, and, you know, the possibilities are endless from that point. I don't need to go on about that, but we're so mindless about that.
we expect, man. You know, when we came up with the idea to touch on expectations later on in the episode, I didn't expect.
That's where our minds are now at this point. We're just
for
ready
this
to move on to that.
conversation to be hitting so many points of that this early, but we're completely oblivious to our everyday routines. We are so mindless in our routine, whether it is the act that we crank our car and we drive places, and you know, not to take away from this, but a way to kind of circle this back to the awareness point is, we drive primarily the same routes every day, and it's very easy for us to get a sense of complacency that this goes on day in and day out with no problems, so I obviously know what I'm doing, and we lose track of things. It is easy to do. But with it getting warmer, as two people that do ride motorcycles, it's something that I become more aware of in general, because I'm going to start riding more, so I start looking more, is that it's motorcycle season. And this complacency quite literally kills people.
Day in and day out.
That woman from today that cut me off in my truck, if I'd have hit her in my truck, honestly, it would have done far more to her than it would have done to my truck. And I could have injured her, which is a problem, but I would have been fine.
Right.
There was no worry for me there that I would have come out significantly injured in that scenario. If I'd have been on my motorcycle and she had done that, and I hit my brakes the same way I hit my brakes in my truck today, what happens if my back end breaks loose and I slide into her, under her? And you know, like, and
that's an interesting, not to cut you off there, but that's an interesting thing that both of us, I know you stand where I do on it. We have an interesting viewpoint for that because we have been on a motorcycle, and that's, there's a list of reasons, as long as the list of things I need to get done by the end of the week, which is pretty long, for why people ride motorcycles. Everybody's got their own prerogative, and not a single one of them is better than the other. But you know what I'm talking about if you've ever been on two wheels on a legal road with other traffic. It's one thing to hit a back road and not see a single car in sight, but I mean, hell, just get on the interstate and run 60, 70 miles an hour down the interstate with those cars moving around you, and oh my God, I've never been more in tune with something than when you're doing that, because you have to be.
Oh yeah.
There's
not a moment where you can lax in that awareness.
No.
Because everything is changing so quickly, especially if it's 5 o'clock on a Friday and you're running 75 miles an hour down the interstate, and it's like, bink, oh, it's a traffic jam in your car. You don't think twice about slowing down from 75 to a stop on the interstate in a traffic jam. But you're on a motorcycle, it's like, how close is the person behind me? How fast am I stopping to give me space to the person in front of me to kind of ease forward and let this person behind me get stopped? Because someone rear-ends you on the interstate in your car, it's a bad day. It could hurt you, but if the chance of it killing you are fairly slim. Someone runs in the back of you at 75 miles an hour and you're sitting on a freaking motorcycle, you're like splattered on their windshield.
Yeah.
And that's so much more comes into play with it, and maybe that's why I feel like I'm a more aware driver.
No, I
is
100%
from
agree
riding
that you
motorcycles.
Do. Yeah.
But that doesn't take away from the fact that it's a huge problem. I'm to the point where I'm so tired of mindless drivers. I really do wish cops would write tickets for people being on their phone. I know it's illegal and that we say that they can. I've never seen anyone getting pulled over for using their phone.
Right.
Cops use their phones a lot in their cars also.
Absolutely.
I've never seen anyone get pulled over for doing it. It's probably happened somewhere, I'm sure, but it hasn't around here. And I wish it would, honestly. I get so fed up with and you've seen me do it in the car with you, where someone has been on their phone beside us driving down the road, and I've rolled my window down and leaned up the window.
Climb out the window.
Hey, put your phone down. Listen, guys, this is a problem.
Yeah.
You are going to hurt somebody.
And it can wait. It can all wait.
It's not that big of a freaking deal.
And I don't want to preach as far as that whole scenario. Don't be on your phone. We're all, kind of like you said earlier, we've all been there and done that. For me, it was through high school, I was bad to be on my phone, as a kid, in and out of my truck, doing things, playing. Normally, it wasn't texting; it was flipping through music and things. But still, it's taking your attention from the actual thing. So, I've got two scenarios, real quick, that have different outcomes that really had a different impact on me and my life and how I handle that. So, in high school, I think it was my senior year of high school, I'm driving around in my F-250. Big truck, so obviously kind of like you were talking about protection as far as, I'm not worried so much about an accident as on a motorcycle or small car. I'm looking at my phone and just assumed that this car, because she started to, in a yield merge onto Four Seasons, started to roll out onto the road, and I made the assumption that you're starting to move forward, you're going forward. Something happened, and there was nobody coming. Something happened where she hit her brakes, and I just rolled right back into the bottom of her bumper, and very little damage. I think it may have cracked her bumper or something, but it was an older car. She was a very nice woman, and I told her I'd take care of it, gave her my number, never heard from her again. Didn't have to claim insurance, nothing. But there wasn't any big outcome of that as far as danger or anything, So I didn't really learn my lesson there. I mean, I dodged a bullet by, mom and dad didn't kill me for coming home with a problem, but I didn't really learn my lesson there. I was still on my phone and this and that. Very first week of having my motorcycle, I didn't have our fancy little Cena's Bluetooth headset in the helmets that allows you to listen to music and hands-free talk, stuff like that. So my bright ass decides to take a pair of Apple headphones and plug it into my phone, run it up through my headset or through my helmet and into my ears. Well, going down the road, I figured, I've been on motorcycles all my life. No big deal to me to just pull my phone out of my pocket and make a switch. Literally all I did was pull my phone up out of my pocket, hit next. I liked the next song. I left it, one click of the button, and back down. And the road started to bend just ever so slightly to the left. And if you're an avid motorcycle rider, or if you know anything about motorcycles at all, you can't stop or turn those damn things on a dime. So as I put my phone back into my pocket and realize what's going on, I slowly, and by slowly I really mean dramatically, you can't do it too fast, but I go to lean the bike, turn it as quickly as possible without yanking it into the ground. And I came inches, Koty, from coming off the road, hitting a little splotch of gravel in the side road there, and I would have been flying across off the road into a creek in Koty. No telling what could have happened. I could have easily have died that instance for looking down at my phone for half a second. So I feel like if people had that more often, and I wish there was a way for us to get that without the actual harm.
Like the sense of danger,
right,
that scares you straight.
But that one time, and even though I was on a motorcycle, it still goes to me looking at my phone in my truck now. Because who's to say a motorcycle doesn't come around the corner? Like that guy today. Like me and that guy collide head on today. That's a bad day, and people do die in head-on collisions. Don't get me wrong. He's probably doing 50. I was probably doing 50. It's a bad time. No doubt.
We could easily both die. We were both in trucks. Your protection level's pretty high, but at the same time, that's also a lot of weight running in each other. But there's a still pretty good chance for survival. That's me on my bike coming through there, and he's in my lane. You hit me head on. There's a 0% chance of survival. Not literally, that's hyperbolic, but there's a pretty good chance I'm dead versus a pretty good chance of me surviving.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so it changes everything, man. It really does.
And don't take either one of us for sitting on our high horses acting like we're, we ride motorcycles and we're entitled to, people being mindful on the road, because that would be stupid of us to go out there and expect for other people to.
Oh, I absolutely assume that you're a moron on the road when I'm on a motorcycle.
Right, because we have to, because nobody else is going to cover your own ass.
No.
And that's the biggest thing, if you hear people say, like our parents or anybody who cares about us, anytime you go out on that motorcycle, please be careful. I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about the people around you. And guess what? That is what I'm worried about. I'm not worried about myself doing something wrong. I've been on a motorcycle enough to know how to handle those types of things, but you can't account for expecting other people to do what they need to be on the road.
What they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. And that's all we're getting at. And if
all I'm getting at is be a little bit more mindful of what you're doing while you're on the road.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you to fix all of your driving problems overnight. I'm not
go buy a motorcycle to learn.
I'm not telling you that you're not going to ever merge a lane without a turn signal.
Yeah.
And maybe cut someone off and be like, oh, sorry, and wave your hand, because I've done that too. I've missed a person behind me and been like, my fault, guy. Like, but at least like I know, like this lady was completely oblivious that I was even behind us,
Right.
or like behind her. But I'm just telling you to be a little bit more mindful while you're driving, because that little bit of being more mindful will grow.
Yeah.
To you be and honestly, that little bit is enough that might keep you from hurting yourself or someone else somewhere down the road. And I don't want that on anybody. That'd be horrible. Too many people I know recently in the last couple of years have had, whether it be fatal or life-altering accidents, whether it be in a car or on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
So that's my soapbox for today about awareness.
No, it was perfect. And timing worked out pretty great, too, because that was the end of a thought, correct?
Yeah, I'm done.
And I have to pee. So
Okay.
we will be right back. And we're back.
All right. What's up?
Like we never even left.
I know that this is going to be like, bloop.
Boop, boop. Bunch of robot sounds for you. Anyways, jumping back to our foreshadowing before, in our brief little break, Koty and I talked about how at the beginning of this, we had no intention whatsoever to harp on expectations and entitlement. And we didn't even attack either one of those as things. We just used the words in the problem that we stated before with awareness of driving and things like that. But what is weird and ironic about that is I threw a question at Koty prior to us starting this recording, and the question was, what is the difference between expectations and entitlement? Because we kind of jumped into, as we spoke in the happiness, was that happiness? Yes, it was. It was about happiness. Expectations versus reality equals happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know what we're talking about, go check it out. But
it's a great episode, just so everyone's aware.
Koty's a little hurt because we really liked the GP4 or whatever.
I don't know.
I don't remember the number, but happiness was a good episode. Nobody liked it. Nobody has listened to it, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's like maybe our lowest ranking episode.
And you would think people would click into happiness.
I know. I thought that the name of it would be something that people were intrigued about, but they weren't. So, anyways.
I digress. So, the thing that hit me was so many people talk about younger people being entitled. You know, you hear that being a big problem with the younger generations or just people in general. There's a whole hell of a lot more entitlement nowadays than there were before. I can't say that because I wasn't there, but it obviously wasn't a problem back then like it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And my question was just simply, what's the difference between expecting something and being entitled to something?
And I want to answer that question because you've heard my answer to that question, but for everybody listening, I don't want us to start rambling on and forget to ever answer that question for you guys.
Hammer it.
So my answer to what the difference is between expectations versus entitlement is that an expectation is that I am providing something to you, therefore there is a set outcome of what I should receive for what I'm providing to you. Whereas entitlement would be, I am providing something to you and you provide to me that outlined expectation, and I feel like that didn't meet my standard of an expectation. I feel like I deserve more. You provided what was outlined as an expectation to me, but I feel like I didn't get what I deserve. And to me, that is the definition of entitlement versus an expectation. They both correlate with each other because expectations are inherently inside of entitlement.
Right.
And
you have to expect something to be entitled. They do correlate, and I think that correlation causes that gray area.
It is a gray area. That's what we talked about. As soon as I said that, you said, well, doesn't that make us all kind of entitled because we have expectations and
right.
they're not always met?
But is it the stigma that you put on it? Because, I mean, if you think about it, if somebody has expectations, you don't knock them for that. No. Expectations are good to have.
I think the biggest difference, though, is there's a set understanding of an expectation. You know what I mean? Like the way that it's like, I pay you for a service of these things. You come to me and you do those things. My expectations met. You've made your money. We both go our separate ways. Whereas entitlement would be, I pay you to do this task and you do the checklist that I gave you.
But you think you're
But
just
then
because
I think you should have also pulled my weeds because you were already there.
right.
And that is an entitlement rather than an expectation. Because you did meet my expectations. I am just skewed in my sense that I think you should go above and beyond what I'm paying you to do, which
Yeah.
is that's where the problem lies.
The Chick-fil-A example.
That is a great example of entitlement.
I'm running it down because I like it.
Do it.
So, Chick-fil-A, if any of you don't know a life hack for your favorite fast food restaurant, if you go to Chick-fil-A at about 10:30,
Right as
maybe
breakfast is the
about
cutoff.
10:20.
Yeah, because you don't want to miss the cutoff.
Yeah, you don't want to miss it because I've done that, and that's just a shitty day. But get there at about anywhere in between 10 and 10:30. I've had it as early as 10, honestly. But if you go in the last part of their breakfast time, it is not uncommon for you to order a Chick-fil-A chicken biscuit with a Coke and them hand you a chicken biscuit, a Coke, and 12 chicken minis because they've made them and they can't serve them after 10:30. Don't go sharing that with everybody because if y'all start eating up my chicken minis at 10:30, I'm going to be pissed. But
you're entitled.
But so I compared this conversation with Koty to if you go at 10:25 one day and they give you your meal, which you paid for. You paid $5 for your number one combo with a chicken biscuit.
It's the cheapest Chick-fil-A I've ever had. But
Whatever. Arbitrary numbers. But you get to the window and they hand you, I have been times where they hand me a catering order. Like I'm talking like 30 or 40 chicken minis. And I'm like, am I fat? What am I going to do with all these?
Do you want these? Yeah.
But I take them. Absolutely.
Give me this.
Take all of them. But you go through that and you have a great day. Like, that's just an awesome day for anybody. You go to buy one meal and they give you all kinds of food for free. Like, that's amazing. So, a week later, you go through at the same time, do the same exact thing. You order your Chick-fil-A number one like you wanted, and you get to the window, and they hand you your food, and they go, "Have a nice day." And you just sit there like, "Where's my chicken minis?" It's 10:28. I want my damn chicken minis.
100%.
But you get this sort of, well, first off, you expect that because the parameters are roughly the same as the prior instance, that
you should
the
get
outcomes
the
are
same
going to,
treatment.
be fairly the same. And that's where expectation kind of turns into, oh, well, because I'm coming here at 10:30 and I'm buying a meal from you, I'm entitled to, if you have anything back there left over, I get it. And you may be able to, for anybody listening, if that doesn't correlate and hit the marks as far as like fitting into what we're trying to get across, then I'm sorry, but that's the best way I can articulate a real world instance of entitlement to something, is every day is Chick-fil-A,
Yeah.
And
that's
and you're not necessarily wrong for it. Like, that's kind of how
it's a bad habit that they've bred, but at the same time, this stems into
okay. Not to cut you off, but I want to snip that in the beak. That's not a bad thing on them. You realize that you just said that was a bad thing for them because they're giving away free food.
It's not a bad thing for them. It's
I'm
a
not
bad
attacking
habit
what
that
you
they've
just
bred.
said. Yes, but that's on us.
Yeah,
it's just like I
100%.
told you earlier. I wasn't attacking. We were talking about my younger brother Bobby with this tendency that he had, but I wasn't attacking Bobby at all because every one of us are
Flawed.
I wouldn't say flawed. I mean, we are.
We are flawed. I don't know.
I was going to say we've all been there.
Oh, yeah.
We've been guilty of it before, so it's not like I'm attacking anybody specifically, but you did it right there in front of me when we're talking about it. Like you're jumping on Chick-fil-A, and really you should just be happy that one time, even if it was one time, that you got some free food.
100%. And I guess that's poor communication skills, though. Honest to God,
Part of it.
It's not that what they're doing is bad. It's what they do breeds bad habits for us,
right,
because we're weak-minded.
Yes.
And we have a sense of entitlement because that's people.
Well,
People
being
have
entitled is easy to do.
Very, very easy to do. And, and so people harp on our generation, more so the generation after us, for being an entitled group of people. And I don't disagree that the problem is more prevalent in that group, that age group, but everyone has a problem with entitlement. I mean, you talked about this when you said that, well, my definition of entitlement versus expectations really proves that we are all entitled.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not wrong. We are all entitled to an extent, but we all have problematic tendencies to an extent also. It's just to, what extent do you have those tendencies before they become very problematic? We all have areas that we could work on. That's kind of the point. Everyone's flawed. You can improve in aspects of your life all the time. So we all have this sense of entitlement that we could improve upon and be more aware of and work to make less of an issue. But there's that age group just seems to have it be more prevalent. It is more of a problem. It is shown to be more of a problem. And that's not to say all of them have that. It's just...
No, yeah, I get what you're saying. And that was where, for me, I then asked you the follow-up question was if you're comparing expectation and entitlement, obviously of the two, we already just stated it, that expectations aren't necessarily a bad thing, but entitlement is.
Mm-hmm,
okay?
100%.
So if you're trying to cut out the difference, if you're trying to figure out what changes the...
This is changes.
I've been swagging it out a bunch today with my hand gestures, apparently, but from what changes between the two, I really think is what separates... Well, obviously that's a little redundant, but the thing that I'm getting at here is if there is a difference and the bad difference is in entitlement, cut that out. How do you do that? And it's like I was telling you, if you don't want to be good, you be bad. If you don't want to be bad, you be good. If you don't want to be fast, if you don't want to be slow, you want to be fast. I'm all backwards right now, but you get where I'm going.
Yeah.
If you don't want to have entitlement, if you don't want to be entitled, have a little bit of gratitude.
100%.
Because that's what Koty and I came to, okay, what is the opposite? And quite literally the opposite of entitlement is gratitude.
100.
Instead of thinking that you deserve more than you have, why don't you be grateful for the things that you do?
100%. It's like, great. You know what? I can afford to go to Chick-fil-A. I am lucky enough that my day's going well enough. I have time to stop Chick-fil-A on my way to do whatever I'm going to do today. And I run in and order my breakfast. And, they're like, hey, here's your breakfast. Also, if you don't mind, we have extra biscuits back here from breakfast, but breakfast is about to end. Would you like one? And you're like, heck yeah, I would love one. That you just made my day. And then you just move on like that. And that should be the end of it, really. Instead of that breeding and expectation in your brain, like, why can't it just make you that day better and you move on with your life? That's what it should do. But again, the nature of people is to expect more. That's our nature. That's something that awareness can change. Being conscious of that can change that. Just being like, that day I went to Chick-fil-A and got that free food was just a great day. Maybe it'll happen again sometime, but maybe it won't.
Right.
It's not a bad thing if it doesn't happen. If they give you your food, you're still going to have a great day because you have time to go get Chick-fil-A for breakfast. You don't get to do that every day. No one gets to go get breakfast every day, honestly.
Be thankful that you have the money in your wallet, the fuel in your vehicle to get you there, buy it, and have... It all goes back to perception. It all goes back to how you look at things and the way you handle things. And since the mind's on Bobby and Chick-fil-A, the last time that we did that and we went through, we did get a catering order. I'm sitting in Bobby's truck. The woman asks us if we would like this catering order that nobody picked up. And I'm thinking to myself, you act like you're inconveniencing me to hand me free food. Yes, I'll take it. And as we roll around to the side, believe it or not, we actually had the catering order, but our order wasn't ready. So we had to pull around and wait in the little to-go area. A friend of ours, Pat Lancaster, rolls through, and he was there getting food for a business meeting at the barn. And
nice.
We thought that he was coming for Chick-fil-A for his own personal, whatever, and he missed the deadline. So Bobby initially sees him and thinks, shit, he's not going to get his breakfast. That's what he's here for. So Bobby takes one of those trays from the catering thing and goes running across the parking lot and interrupts him while he's ordering. Don't order yet. Here, take these. He's like, man, I was just, obviously miscommunication. Pat was there for something else, but Bobby could have easily have said, I showed up at the right time. I was given all these. I'm going to eat them all. No. He threw it on somebody else.
And honestly, I love the idea of paying stuff forward. It is great.
Well, that's
it's something that Chive got me into a long time ago, which Dad got me on a Chive a long time ago, which I think is hilarious that Dad's the one that showed me what Chive was. But Dad got me into Chive a long time ago, and the whole Chive mentality of paying things forward has stuck with me forever because it's just great. I've done it at coffee shops. And it's always like a random moment where like it just like the moment just kind of works out. I talked about it at the vape shop that one day, but it's always just a great time. And it's like if you do get that free breakfast at Chick-fil-A ever or something, like saying hey, drop it, drop the next meal for the person behind me, like something crazy.
If you get that opportunity, check that box.
That's a good way to be more grateful for something like that, though.
That's a way of showing or expressing gratitude.
Yeah, it's like, well, I don't want to buy food for the person behind me every time I go to Chick-fil-A, so it would be nice if I didn't get free food every time I went there. But if I happen to get it, I'm totally happy to buy someone's food. So, that's cool. That's just a good way to look at it. I'm not telling you to go out and do that. I'm not telling you that I'll do that. I'm telling you I probably will at some point, but not every time. It's cool to pay it forward, though. I'm telling you should pay it forward more often.
Yeah, no, and I'm not... I agree. We're not trying to tell you to be that big, giant ball of gratitude that
it's a way to prevent entitlement.
Right.
And it's a super toxic thing. Well, entitlement isn't.
Entitlement aside, gratitude is just not as abundant as it should be in everyday life, I think.
It's like happiness not being a part of literature anymore.
Yeah. It doesn't get talked about. It doesn't get... Think about it. We've harped on it. Everybody's harped on it. Hell, Joe Rogan and Kevin Hart talk about it in their podcast they just did recently. And it kills me that people focus on the bad and the negative and the violence and all of that kind of things. Why don't we catch a video of somebody being, what would that word be? Gracious? Gracious.
That is the correct word.
Yeah. And just showing gratitude, because it's like that's not cool. It's not, but in reality, that's one of the, in my opinion, that's probably top 3 traits you could have.
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's bad because like nowadays when you meet someone that is overwhelmingly like a bright person, that like that you just see as like that is gracious, but is also like super polite and like open-minded, and they're a brighter they make you more open-minded and a brighter person. Like that seems like such a rarity. It seems like such a crazy find, and it's not bad that those people are out there. But it's upsetting that is such a rare find.
Right.
That they stand out so much because it's such an abnormality. It's like, man, the fact that that's impressive and like makes people like, and those people seem like such big figures to you in your life is like, man, what are we doing, the rest of us?
Right.
Like we're dropping the ball. We need to be more mindful. We need to be more grateful. There's bad shit. Whether you're a multi-millionaire and people look at you and think you have no problems, or you are homeless.
People think you have all sorts of problems.
I've actually met some people that are down on their luck. They're some of the happiest freaking people you've ever seen.
Have it off better than I do.
And there are millionaires that kill themselves.
Right.
Like you got to look at this. So graciousness is not a form of wealth or something that stems from the things that you own or you have. It's something that you can have no matter what the situation is. We all have problems we're going through. Everyone has problems they're going through. It's something that people say all the time. Don't judge a book by their cover because you never know what's underneath. You don't know what problems people have, but that doesn't stop you from waking up every day and being happy to be alive.
No. And that's why it starts within.
Oh, yeah.
And so many people think that to fix these things, you have to start where you project it outwards towards other people. And that's not even, you're already way ahead of yourself, because before you can even begin to contemplate that, you need to have everything in your own.
You got to be in tune with your star player.
You do. There's 1,000 different ways to say that. That was probably the funniest way you could have said that, if anybody knows where that came from. But, even in the book with Jordan Peterson that I'm currently reading, like one of his chapters is, don't judge the world before your house is in perfect order. And that speaks volumes for me, because before I worry about how I project myself to you, to anyone listening, to my family, my friends, my acquaintances. I need to know on the inside
that you're squared away.
That I'm, perfect. And that takes time. That's something that's not, I figured that out on my 11th birthday. I'm set now. No,
and it takes pretty much consistent learning because
it's ever changing.
Life changes us so quickly and so drastically. If you look at it, man, every time we seem to get something figured out, life knocks you right in the head, and it's back to a transition period, back to trying to figure things out again. But the more that you go through those changes, the more you learn how to adapt to those changes.
Right.
So
it goes back to adaptability.
Yeah, and it's cool though that the more we learn how to do that, the more we learn about ourselves and how we cope or how we learn, the easier these things become. But step one of that is learning it, and you have to look inward to start the process of learning how do I respond to the negative? How do I respond to the positive? How can I respond to the negative better? How can I respond to the positive better? And it takes a lot of reflection inward to ever learn that. But once you start learning that, it is constant. You will consistently see what's changing about you very, very prevalently. It won't sneak past you. It's one of those things, like as soon as you put your mind to thinking inward, anytime something's off about you, you know it.
Yeah.
And that's interesting, man. It's one thing for you. There's one more thing. I know we talk a lot about just being a little bit more conscious of things, but that's self-awareness. Going back to our conversation before, that being more aware of your driving. That's self-awareness, and your conscious ability to look inward is very important to your overall health, to your overall life, to everything.
Absolutely. The dedication that you were just talking about, the consistency, spoke out to me because I'm a super, super huge fan of Ryan Shazier, a linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who went down with a serious back spine injury last year and was told at one point he probably wasn't ever going to walk again. And probably not even 15 minutes before we sat down to start this recording thing, he put up a video, and I've got it pulled up here, and the man's box jumping on a 4-foot box. And the caption to this picture or this video is dedication equals hard work and patience. Okay. Now how this ties in for what we're talking about, I keep thinking to myself, play this episode back in your head right now. And even from the beginning, when we were foreshadowing what we were really going to talk about later without meaning to, we've hit spots in this episode where we've referred back to happiness, adaptability, things that we've talked about on the podcast recently. It's not like we recorded this shit yesterday. Those conversations were weeks ago. But the fact that we are doing them on a consistent basis, even if it's a week in between or weeks in between, it's still consistent, and we're putting hard work towards it, our mind picks that up, and it makes correlations, and it creates a network of stuff that you actually want in your head. And that's just an interesting piece for anybody to take into anything that they do, no matter if it's weightlifting, anything. Be hardworking and be consistent, and really understand what consistency means before you dive into it, and I promise you'll see results. Promise.
100%. And, they may not come at the speed you want them to. They may not come to the extent you want them to, but you will see results. That also plays into the negative. That's also something that you got to understand about this, is that if you put consistent negatives into your life, they will compound, and they will be at the front of your mind. Your mind will interwork these negatives into everything you do, and that's where it poisons you, and that's how things spiral out of control. But just having the conscious mind of that and being like, okay, bad things happen. Here's what I'm doing to fix these things. And you keep those at the front of your mind, then your body's always looking to adapt. And it's looking to see the solutions in things rather than the problems. And that breeds good habits rather than bad habits. Ryan Shazier is an amazing story. It was gut-wrenching when that injury happened, and it's been absolutely amazing to see where he's came from that injury. Honestly, it's good to see the man jumping of all things.
No kidding.
You know, him standing at one of the games this year was like a big thing for everybody. Let alone now, you know, I've seen him lifting a lot on his Instagram page.
But you know, I don't want to spiral, and I don't want to jump off of everything. But just as a final thought, while it's in my head, you know, it's another prime example of, take the NFL for example. It's a small platform in regards to the entire world. But just with the NFL, how much stuff do you hear them bickering back and forth with the president over standing for the national anthem, or, you know, this person got whatever it is? I can't even keep up with all of it, but it's all negative stuff.
This person wants more money from this team.
Yeah.
Or these two players are fighting with each other.
Kaepernick is, you know, whatever that shit is. All of that stuff is all over the main headlines. You don't see anything about this. I wouldn't even keep up with it if I didn't pursue the man on his own social media accounts. You don't hear a thing about it. And with this, I know sports doesn't matter, but you take into account like the Steelers and what they're doing with, as far as like getting rid of people, cutting money, all of this whirlwind of shit going on in their organization, and they're re-signing a man that doesn't even have the ability to play football now or in the near future, and they have him as a part of this organization for what he's overcome. But who talks about that? It's not terrible or violent prone or anything like that, so what do we care?
We don't care because it doesn't boost ratings, even though it should, and it would if you took the shot on it. That goes back to people's expectations. And us talking earlier that bad processes that work for long periods of time, people neglect to look for a solution to make them better because that process works. It's tried and true. We know it's tried and true. We know people respond to the negative. We get views from negative. So we're going to keep putting out the negative. But all it would really take is for someone to start posting positives and take that dip for a year or 2 years. And once it blew up, they would change the entire game. But people are too concerned with the spotlight of now or the success of now to ever take those big shots that do change industries. And that's a big problem. That's a huge problem because things like that slip through the cracks. Our mainstream news, you know, people's lives being saved slip through the cracks versus man in Trump hat walks down the road and gets yelled at by some angry person, or Trump activist attacks leftists supporting, you know, their stance on their platform. Right. That's all we hear about. And
or a mass murderer kills 30 people in Vegas and we plaster him over the news for a week and he gets his own week of...
Rather than all the good stuff, like, you know, all the shit that the good... Cop shoots somebody, right? Not cop saves family of 3 in fiery accident, or, you know, fire department puts out an apartment fire potentially that could have killed 112 people. No one cares about these stories. People do care about these stories, but we don't hear about them, so we don't even think about them.
Right.
I follow an account on Instagram, not to kind of spiral out of control on this,
good.
But I follow an account on Instagram that is an account that posts daily of cops that get killed while on duty. Every day they post somewhere in the United States a cop that dies on duty. And that's wild. And they post the article about what happened to this officer. But every single day, if not multiple times a day, I scroll through my timeline and it's fatal car crashes. It's people on the interstate that hit cops at traffic stops. It's cops trying to stop people speeding down the interstate, and they both wind up crashing. It's wild, the amount of cops that die in this country every single day, and you hear nothing about it. But the minute one cop in one place oversteps a bound or does their job and someone dies because a cop did it, you hear about it for 2 months.
Right.
That's awful.
I don't know how to explain it, man.
You know, that's not a positive. What is that word? The thing we were talking about earlier.
Positive feedback loop.
That is not. That's a negative feedback loop that we are stuck in.
Well, no, it is a positive feedback loop. It's just backwards. It's regarding the wrong things, and
well, yeah, you know, they get a positive outlook from showing negatives,
Right.
And they consistently get...
The positive is their views and their recognition and stuff. Because, I mean, kind of like you said before the podcast, alcoholism is a positive feedback loop. It doesn't mean alcoholism is positive.
Yeah, you're right. So but that's what it is. We're stuck in a positive feedback loop for this drastically negative media platform.
Right.
On all accounts, not just to attack the news, but in all accounts.
Yeah. I completely agree. And I don't know where to fix it. Maybe that'll be our long-term mission.
Maybe.
The mission statement for Genuine Being moving forward, but
is to get out of this negative positive feedback loop.
Yep.
But all we're really getting at today, though, is, like always, is your mindfulness about certain things. Today, one more thing for you to kind of figure out a way to work into your life into a small way is being more mindful of how gracious you are, for one, and two, how aware you're being, and whether that be self-awareness or awareness of the things around you, whether it be driving, whether it be of people's feelings in your family. Say, there are times we get very complacent with our families and we don't recognize things that are going wrong.
Right.
So whether it be self-awareness or, the things going on around you, please be more aware. Please be mindful of how gracious you're being, or whether you're being an entitled prick.
Right. And if it's neither one of those things, any other problem you have, don't know what it is, but I can damn sure guarantee you that a good way to start fixing it is just to be more aware.
Oh, yeah. And it's going to take time. Like you were talking about before, the patience is key.
It's going to take time. And that time is a variable. And by variable, I mean you don't know what that time is. You don't have a clue at how much time it's going to take. So put your head down, keep grinding, and hit that point to where you're like, oh, shit, this is how much time it took.
Yeah.
That's the only way you'll ever know.
Yeah, but you'll never know until, you know the problem's fixed. So that's really it. It's just to start.
Yeah.
And the minute you start and you become more conscious of it, let that compound, and eventually it goes away. Stop worrying about time so much.
Yeah.
Worry about it being fixed, and time's going to pass anyway.
No doubt. To everyone listening, I hope you took something from it. As always, if you listened for 5 minutes and you took something from it, then we are doing our job to what we expect out of this correctly.
100%. Either way, I had a great time recording it.
No doubt.
But thanks again to all you guys for listening to us, and I will catch you guys later.
Later.